Hey everyone, this is Tim Picciott, joined with John Sneisen. And so I am from the Liberty Advisor Show. We've got John Sneisen from the Economic Truth. And today what we wanted to focus on was all the IPO, that's initial public offering debacles that have been basically plaguing the market, especially coming from all the unicorns. And then also wanted to give an update on the market and the Federal Reserve. And that's one of the main reasons we've got John here is to talk about all that stuff. And if you are watching us on the replay, and actually, hold on. I think I heard some feedback there. But anyways, if you are watching this on the replay, make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring the bell. I would also recommend checking it out on DLive as well. It's just another method to help get notified when we go live, as YouTube and Facebook are constantly jacking with us. And actually, the best way to stay in touch, you'll see the number at the bottom of the screen if you guys text INFORMED to 71441. That's my book. It's called How It's Rigged. The Economy, perfect for everything that's going on right now. I mean, basically, it's a cliff notes on how the GDP, how the economic data, how everything is all rigged. And I didn't see anything else like it. And so because I got sick of arguing with liberals about how great things were under Obama, I decided, you know what, no one else wrote anything like this. I'll go do it. And now I find that I'm using the book to then argue with Trump supporters. So go figure. So it's got dual uses, but that's what you get when you is a unicorn. A unicorn is it's one of these Silicon Valley startups that usually they don't make any money. They're actually losing a lot of money in most cases, and they have billion-dollar plus valuations. And what was going on is a lot of these venture capital VC firms, they would invest into these startups, and then what they then would try to do is have their top line revenue grow. So what that means in non-geek terms is basically they'd have more sales. And so all they really cared about is having more and more sales, get more and more market penetration, even though every new customer, they were losing more money. So there's no way to grow yourself out of a situation where it's not like, okay, well, I only have 10 customers, so now I need to get 100. But the problem is when you give 100 customers, you're literally losing more money than when you had 10 customers. But for a while, nobody cared. Nobody cared until basically, what's going on recently. And what's going on recently is that Wall Street now actually does seem to care. And if we bring it to a recent article we have over here that shows the IPO market has never been this forgiving for money-losing firms. And what the article goes on to say is that 83% of U.S. listed IPOs in 2018 were companies that were not making any money. And so what used to happen, and this is, a crazy thing from back in the day, what used to happen is that companies would go, they'd actually make money, they provide a service that people want, and then they would go and have an initial public offering. Now the companies aren't even making money, and they're getting these like multi-billion-dollar valuations and paydays for companies that aren't making money, and it's just absolutely crazy, the stuff that's going on. Now, one of the other guys who actually thinks that things are getting crazy is our good old friend Jim Cramer. And even Jim Cramer is saying, of course, pop-up comes up, Cramer on recent IPO stumbles. These brokers need the money so bad, it's like there's no shame. So when you've got Jim Cramer talking about no shame, I mean, I think that's when you know that things are bad. When even like Jim Cramer's got and for those who don't know, he's the Mad Money guy that parades around as a financial analyst. And I think that's enough about Jim Cramer. And basically what's going on with all the VC stuff is that when the venture capitalists, they invest into these companies, so then that way they can eventually have an initial public offering. They can unload those shares to all the sheeple. And the founders are happy because they get big paydays. The VCs are happy because they get big paydays. The brokerages are happy because they're getting massive cuts right from the top. Big origination fees, which eventually are going to be going away when they have security token offerings. That's a whole nother subject. I've done a bunch of videos on that you guys can check out on the WHAM channel. But the other thing that would happen is you'd have the brokerages when they got in. There would usually going to be a little bit of a pop. So if you're able to be a broker and you have your client, get in on the ground floor, then sell immediately. There's usually, most of the time, there's a good pop. If you can get on that ground floor, then the brokers are happy because their clients are making money, which they're happy. And then everybody's happy until the music runs out and basically there's nobody left standing with a chair. And one of the people, or not people, but entity that is left without a chair, and one of the biggest unicorns of all, is a company called WeWork. Actually, now I think they're actually called We, and actually the founders sold the naming rights of to WeWork for, I think it was $5.9 million. I've got that coming up later in one of the notes. But yeah, they charged $5.9 million. The founder charged to use the name We as opposed to having the name WeWork. So very crazy stuff going on indeed. But some of the stuff that's going on with WeWork, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this company or not. I mean, basically it's one of these companies where instead of, if you don't have your own office space, you can combine with a bunch of other people. It's a cohabitating space. I mean, sometimes you can get your own deal. You can get like a little cubicle for people. You can get sort of like, it's basically like a Starbucks without homeless people that are there. I actually have a virtual office that I run out of. So it's not with WeWork. It's another similar company called Regis, but they're not alone. I mean, there's My Office Suites. You got a bunch of local places here in Phoenix doing the same thing. But I think the difference is the company I'm with, they're actually profitable, but it's not necessarily groundbreaking, and they have this amazing secret sauce that no one can figure out. I mean, it seems like a very kind of plain Jane type company that really shouldn't be gathering a $47 billion valuation. And I've had fancy office addresses. I mean, I used to have a building in across the street and from the Ferrari dealership in North Scottsdale. But most of my clients are coming from all across the country, and so I do a lot of meetings just like I'm talking to John right now through Zoom. How I'm talking to you guys right now is actually technically through Zoom. And so with Zoom, I don't really need an office because everything I do is virtual. And so that could be something that could also plague into WeWork's potential troubles down the road. But just digging into some other things going on with WeWork, one of the things, and John will probably find this funny because we didn't talk about this beforehand, is that they came up with something called a community adjusted what did they call it? They called it the community adjusted EBITDA. So that's earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation,
EBITDA,
and amortization. And what they were actually saying was, and this is great, is that we are actually going to come up with our own EBITDA, which is actually, am I on the wrong article? Actually, here we go. Okay, let's see, where is it? Yeah, I mean, basically what they were doing is saying like all the normal costs that basically involved in running a business, like marketing expenses. You've got employee staff. I mean, they threw basically everything in the kitchen sink into their EBITDA number, and basically sort of a laughable thing that they were doing, and it was just basically crazy that basically nobody really called them out on this until the very last second. And even in this article, so right now I'm looking at an article, and you guys are looking at it too. It says unicorns aren't profitable. I got a stupid ad from unicorns aren't profitable, and Wall Street doesn't care. And then even this article then goes on to say, because this was from a few months ago, at the very least, public market investors, the sheeple, please don't be swayed by WeWork's eventual stock offering and its community adjusted EBITDA. So here they are like making a dig at WeWork, and this was several months in advance. So then you take a look at other things going on with WeWork. Okay, here's the article I meant to pull up last time. So their community adjusted EBITDA it subtracted not only interest rates, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, but also basic expenses like marketing, general and administrative, and development and design costs. Now, the other thing, and I mentioned this earlier, is that the revenue more than doubled from 2016 going into 2017 from 436 million to 886 million. And the other thing that happened is their net losses also increased 117% to $933 million. So, I mean, it would be great to be in the olden days when, imagine telling somebody in 1950 that you'd have all these companies that literally are losing, in this case, almost $1 billion. I'm sure by 2018, I'm sure they probably did lose over $1 billion. But what WeWork was planning on doing is they were basically planning on having this, all the largesse that was going to be coming from their IPO, and then they're going to take that money and then use that to basically, give themselves a longer lifeline or more rope to basically survive. But now
to hang themselves with.
Yeah, you can also hang yourself, I guess, with rope. Or if you're, Jeffrey Epstein, you can have somebody else hang you and have all the cameras go out and have, all the guards asleep of the most, high-profile prisoner in America. But I digress. Thanks, John, to get me in. I'm like a squirrel, looking at nuts over here when I'm going over different things going on. So, so with WeWork, I mean, the things, I mean, actually, let's get into some other things that were going on. So some of the other things that were going on is right ahead of the IPO, and we'll get this up on the screen right now, is that their founder, Adam Newman, he cashed out $700 million beforehand. Now, a lot of times what people like, what investors, the sheeple like, is they like to see that the CEO is invested into the company because that way they have skin in the game. And so when you take out nearly $1 billion ahead of time, it gives people, maybe a little bit of pause for concern. The other thing that he was doing that was pretty shady is that they were actually taking buildings. So some of the WeWork properties and commercial real estate that they own are actually owned by the CEO, and then WeWork leases it from the CEO. And the other thing they did is I mentioned this earlier, is that they charged 5.9, it's a different article here. Yeah, the WeWork said it paid the founders $5.9 million for We this year, based on a valuation determined by a third-party appraisal. And so, the other thing they did is spent $40 million on a road show. This is basically them going around to all the big investment banks, all the pension funds, having a big song and dance about how great everything is and why you need to go invest. And just, it was like the beginning of August, this company was valued at $47 million. Now, because of all the shenanigans that were going on, I think even Wall Street, who should be smarter than everybody else, says, "Wait a minute, guys, this IPO is actually crap, and I don't think we should actually go ahead with it." Which is very rare, because they do have a lot of money tied up in all this, in all the song and dance that goes along with the road show and getting in. A lot of people, greedy bankers and greedy brokers, wanted to see this happening, but they're not the only one. Another one was Peloton. For you guys that don't know, Peloton is a company where you buy these, $2,200 stationary bikes, and then you've got a big TV in front of it. So basically it's a $2,200 stationary bike with a big tablet, and then you can stream workouts. And I think it's like $20 a month. You can stream those workouts, and it's just something where as somebody who, I spent 10 years. I just sort of retired in this past June, but 10 years doing triathlons, and I've biked about 20,000 miles the past 10 years. So, I think I do have some gravitas to be able to comment on whether or not I think that this would work. And almost nobody that I knew that was in my circle has a Peloton. Matter of fact, I don't think anyone I know has a Peloton, and maybe that is a bullish sign. But as part of their valuation, I don't see the exact number over here, but I remember reading that basically their valuation would assume that you would need about 10% of all the fitness equipment sold in America to be basically at the hands of Peloton, which I'd actually argue is more of a... Yeah,
that sounds very unsustainable to me, to be honest. But and also, you think about people that want to work out. Like, how about just go out in nature? Most people would prefer that instead of having a big bike at their house at home, or just be social with other people. But I guess they're trying to keep on that trend that people are more and more by themselves, and they don't want to hang out with anyone as they do their thing. But I guess that was kind of their, a thought behind it, Tim. But again, if they need to be 10% of all fitness equipment sold in the United States, then that's extremely unsustainable.
Yeah, one would think that it would be extremely. Actually, hold on. I thought I was going to cancel the Zoom. Definitely do not want to do that. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, yeah, and again, from experience here, there's a bunch of different software workouts, and like I mentioned, it's basically a software company. And what I would do personally, and this is what I did do, is I bought a bike for $1,500 that used to be a surgeon's bike, and that they bought for like $5,000. It was used for a few years. They went to go buy a brand new $10,000 bike, so I was the beneficiary of their $1,500 one. And then you can buy, there's a program called Perf Pro where you can basically and nowadays there's stuff that's way better than what I have. So I bought a similar type trainer, I guess, to Peloton, but you put your own bike on it, and I can ride any course in the world. I can adjust. I can put pre-programmed workouts in it, and it does make you get very, very fast. If you want to get very fast, you train by power. You also what you do is you can set it so that way, let's say the flywheel won't even move unless you're going X amount of watts, and it keeps you honest. But there's ways to do that are so much cheaper. And then guess what? I can take my bike off the trainer, and then I can go ride it outside, and then I can go put it back on. on, and I would much rather do that, and that's what I have done. You can Strava is another app. It's sort of like sort of I guess like a Facebook for triathletes and runners and cyclists, and you can buy workouts on there. There's spinnerals. You can go turn on the TV. Like I mentioned, you can buy even like a top line trainer that are connected through Bluetooth, so you can program these workouts. That from your phone that then goes right to your trainer. Tons of different stuff, and this is me talking from my own experience. I hope I didn't bore you guys with that. So that's why I just wanted to give a little bit of my own experience with this, and I wouldn't I would not be bullish on that company at all. And then you've got other companies such as Blue Apron. This article came out a year ago, but they were a 90% drop, making it the third worst U.S. IPO this decade. I think I'd already mentioned. Yeah, Peloton just came out.
Yeah, and then you got Beyond Meat is another one that's kind of slowly failing now, it seems like.
Yeah, Beyond Meat. You had Uber, Lyft. I mean, and it just goes to show you that it's just very unethical that they basically put these valuations at extreme sky high, ridiculous, stupid valuations, and that way everybody gets paid except for basically whoever the bag holders are that are dumb enough to go and buy this on the IPO, which usually buying at the ground floor is usually a good idea. But when you have companies that are not only are they not making a lot of money, they're actually losing money, and so great. We want to get more 10% of the market share, and so that way we lose a bunch of money. And I don't know, maybe their play is you get a whole bunch of people to have these machines in their house, and then they're all paying you $20 a month, and then you can only hire a couple trainers doing different things, and maybe it will be successful. But I already just mentioned all the different reasons and things that you can do. Personally, I'd rather just take my bike outside, and I was started my first Ironman training in the snowiest city in America, so I did do so that I do get that there is a need to be outside or be inside, and now I'm in like the hottest place in America, so it's a different reason I go inside sometimes. But yeah, I mean, that was all this stuff. The only reason that all this stuff has been able to go on is because of the low interest rates, the Federal Reserve manipulating things. And so, yeah, a lot of these, big VC companies like, SoftBank's Vision Fund, if you're able to borrow money at next to nothing and you can go take a flyer and you're like, well, hey, I'll put in, $1 billion, and that $1 billion will give it a $30 billion valuation, and we'll do a few tweaks and we'll IPO it in, a few months, and then we'll all make billions of dollars. And we don't really care, if the company's making any money, because we're all going to cash out. And, eventually the music stops. And right now the music is stopping. I mentioned earlier, it was like over 80% of the companies that have IPO'd have lost money. I personally think things are going to go the route of the security token. And so if you guys go back to on the WAM channel, there's like a Tim Picciott Liberty Advisor section, and I've got several videos on security tokens. So I'm not going to belabor that now, but I think it's
there we go.